Are you satisfied with your understanding of sustainability? If you are not, imagine a journey together, a pluralistic one, with academia, innovators, startups, NGOs, all looking for solutions to the greatest challenge of our time. My name is Samuele Tini, and this is the Sustainability Journey. Welcome to another episode. And today we are going to discuss the power of net. Many times, and many on the audience, they asked me, wonderful, you have interviewed the big guys at the top, but then we want to know how we can come together, how as people that want to make a change can come together and discuss where we can share, how we can find platforms. Somebody, in the United Kingdom, coming from Spain, has created a community with now, I think more than 20,000, you will correct me if wrong, members, which is growing, putting together Changemakers in sustainability. So I want to welcome today the founder of this community, Good Report, Carlos Terol. Carlos, it's a pleasure having you here today.
Hi, Samuel. Thank you for having me here. It's a real pleasure. Just a minor correction there. I wish we were 20,000 already. We are around 2,600 people.
Oh, fantastic. So,
yes.
So I put a 10 more, but that is the objective of 24. That is the objective of 2024.
Yes. That's our goal. Yes.
That's our goal.
But yeah, thanks a lot for having me here, Samuel. It's a real pleasure.
Fantastic, Carlos. I want really to discuss and see Good Report and the work that you are doing in this space. But before that, our question, who is Carlos? How you have become a sustainability leader?
Good question. So I think to respond that, we need to go back probably to 2015 or even 2014. That's when I finished my university studies. And back then, I was a pretty normal guy. I didn't care about social impact. I didn't care about sustainability. Just I had some really more capitalist goals in life. I just wanted to have a fancy car and a fancy house and a lot of money. That's it. But there's something that happened. And it's that I've got some good friends from Western Sahara, because I'm originally from Gran Canaria, which is a small island in the coast of Africa. And my friend from Western Sahara, he asked me to go there with him. So I took this plane, which just takes half an hour, literally 30 minutes to go from Gran Canaria to Africa. And I landed there and I saw a totally different reality. I saw people living in poverty with lack of opportunities. And I suddenly realized, up until that point, I thought that I had a good career, a good university degree and everything else because I had put the effort, the energy to get all of that. But I realized then that there was something else, and it's that I had the opportunity to get those things. And suddenly I saw these people living just half an hour from where I was born, and they didn't have those opportunities. So that totally opened my mind and opened my eyes. And it was when I started realizing that I was so lucky that I had to give back to the world because, there's a lot of people who don't have those opportunities. So I started being more involved in social impact, sustainability. Then I moved to the UK to work here. And I started collaborating with a charity called Engineers Without Borders, because my background is in civil engineering. So that looked like a, good charity to collaborate with. And we started running events. And I was putting a lot of energy and effort into running these events and bringing change makers, people together. And suddenly I started developing this interest in sustainability because I was meeting really amazing people. I was hearing the stories of people changing the world in so many different ways that I was super inspired. And thanks to that, I developed that interest in sustainability and social impact.
Fantastic. And I really like your Eureka moment has come from Africa and a trip here. So it is also resonate with many others guests. That's when confronted with a different environment and different condition, they really realized how and the importance of change, sustainability from the environmental side, but also the social side. And now you have now take a step even bolder step ahead with Good Ripple, this community. So for the people that are not there listening to us, can you share what is the mission? How is the platform? What are the goals?
Yeah, definitely. So Good Ripple, and just to give you a little bit of more background, how we came about Good Ripple was that when I was starting to run those events for a charity, I discovered that there were lots of change makers around me. I found people who were living in my street that I wouldn't have met unless I was running these events. And that made me think like, how many other people are out there that want to change the world that I don't know about? Maybe they are living in my street. Maybe they're living in my neighborhood, right? How do you know your neighbor is not trying to change the world like you or somebody in your street? We're missing out a lot of potential of bringing these people together. So that's when I sort of came up with the idea of Good Ripple, a platform like Tinder, but for change makers, where you can just see all of these change makers around you and connect with them in a very easy, fast, and meaningful way. So that was the idea. Then it took me around 8 years to actually action and implement that idea. And so that was at the end of 2022 when I decided to actually start Good Ripple and start the platform. So our goal at Good Ripple is bringing change makers together. That's our main value proposition. We want to make it super fast, super easy, super meaningful for change makers to connect. We've got a bold goal of connecting 300 million change makers by 2030. And the reason for that number is that there's some studies showing that you need around 3.5% of the population to mobilize together to create real systems change. And 300 million is about 3.5% of the world population, around 8 billion people. So we want to try and connect those 3.5% of the global population so that we can achieve systemic change. And the way to do that is right now we've got the community, but we've got big ambitions about creating our own platform, our own mobile app in a way similar to Tinder, where you can find these change makers around you to connect and then help you also amplify your positive impact in the world. So far, we started just over a year and 3 months ago. And we've gone from 0 to 2,700 people almost now from 97 countries in the world. So to me, it's quite mind-blowing, very inspiring, because, when I started this, I thought after a few months, it would be just me and my girlfriend and a couple of friends in the community. And suddenly we had all of these change makers coming and saying, yes, we want a space to find more change makers. So it's been super positive and super inspiring seeing how change makers have appreciated this platform and have come together, and already we see the ripples that are happening through collaboration and meeting each other. So it's really, really inspiring.
Fantastic. And it's really the power, as I said, the power of community, the power of linking people and creating partnership, not only at the top level, but also at the bottom, and really showcasing that you are not alone in the journey towards a more sustainable, more just world. But I want to ask, I know you are also a startup man, and we are also interested in entrepreneurship and work. And I'm sure it has been a long journey from the 8 years and this year when you have just implementation. So which are the major challenges or successes in building Good Ripple? So can you share a bit your journey in this entrepreneurship for good in a way?
For sure. Yeah. So I think I'm a bit lucky in a way, because Good Ripple is sort of the third startup that I start. So I don't have already a little bit of experience from two previous ones. And I'm trying not to make the same mistakes. So for example, one big mistake that I'm trying to avoid now is before, I wanted to build something amazing and then bring people. And I think that's sort of the main reason why startups fail, is because you build something and you haven't really validated your idea enough. So when we come to Good Ripple, our goal is to create our own mobile app. But I thought, I'm not going to start building an app that nobody wants to use. So what we did, it was to create an MVP, a minimum viable product of that app to connect people. And we did it in the form of a community. So a community is a good way of bringing people together. And we used a platform that's already done, is NAS. So we use NAS as our community platform rather than developing our own mobile app or other thing. So it's off the shelf. It's ready for you to use. So we just went there, and in one day we had our community up and running. It took literally, a few hours of setup, and that's it. And suddenly we were able to start testing whether people, change makers, wanted to connect with each other. So that's a big success I think I like to share, because it's the lesson learned of not spending a lot of time building stuff that may not be appreciated by the people that you're building it for. So I guess the main lesson learned there is, if you're thinking of creating your own startup, starting a project, start by testing your idea and validating the idea with the minimum effort that you can. Like, what's the minimum thing? Sometimes it's just a Google form to gauge interest. In our case, was just to create a community and a Slack channel, start bringing people together and see whether there's value in that. Now we've tested that for over a year, and we see that there is demand because people keep coming in. And we're starting after a year to hear a lot of people coming in due to word of mouth. There's a lot of people saying, oh, somebody told me about this community. My neighbor told me, my colleague told me. So when you see that people are talking about it and bringing more people, that's a really good sign that you are onto something there. So yes, I think focusing a lot on validation on that idea at the beginning, it's super critical. In terms of challenges, I think one of the main challenges that we've got is that at the moment, it's all bootstrapped. So it means we don't have any investment from outside. It's me putting in the money, and it's also me putting in the time. And I don't have a team. I don't have anybody else at the moment. It's just me. We're actually in the process of bringing in a community champion. And I think, again, that's another lesson learned, because I've been trying to do everything on my own for over a year. And I'm actually, as any entrepreneur, I'm always stretched, right? And I think that's something that we all struggle with, the time and energy. So I would say, don't be afraid of asking for help. I've been actually afraid of asking for help, and I think I've postponed it for too long. But luckily now I finally got to the point where I decided to ask for help. We got like a super good response from the community. We're now talking to a few community members who are very passionate and interested in becoming community champions. So that's a challenge that it's now converting into a positive lesson learned. But yeah, I think time and effort is always a challenge for sure.
Fantastic. And it's really a lesson also for people listening to us, that where do I start? How do I do? Do I need like a ticket of $1 or $2 million to start? No, you can start from scratch, bootstrapping, and as you say, test the product, see there is a result, and really see how you can work and develop. And I want to ask a subsequent question. You have mentioned technology. How do you see the technology, the platforms, like, for example, Good Report, which role they can have in contribute to social change and impact? You have such a bold step, 300 million people. So how do you see the impact of technology on that?
Yeah, I think I'm a big believer in technology for good. I think, technology is like everything. Like, we can use it for good, we can use it for bad. But I do believe that used in the right way, it has a lot of power to help a lot of people. It's something that it has unlocked the power of bringing people together globally, right? To me, that's really amazing. Like, when you can start bringing people together globally and join forces to tackle the world's biggest challenges, there's a huge power there, because suddenly it's not me and a few others around me trying to tackle this change, but suddenly it's me and millions around the globe tackling these challenges, right? So first, it feels a lot easier because you don't feel that alone. So you see there's actually people all over the world trying to do this. So it feels easier at least. And then it's actually, joining forces. It means like you can put more pressure on governments, you can put more pressure on corporates, you can collaborate a lot more, you can co-create a lot more. So I think I love technology because it really empowers everyone around the world. And, with more access to internet around the world as well, like, it's reaching more the global south and even rural parts of the world, more people accessing technology. Sometimes, we've got this image of one person in rural Africa, maybe in a village with a mobile phone. And some people say, well, but that's not development, right? And I would argue, that piece of technology can help that person access education that they would have never been able to access before. They can access with that technology emergency services. When they have a child that's ill or something, they can actually access that emergency service. So suddenly technology is providing a lot of resources, a lot of basic opportunities to people around the globe. So I love it because it's really in line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, because it's bringing those opportunities to everyone, everywhere. So I think in summary, I'm a huge believer in technology for good. I think we need to be using more technology, but also don't just rely on technology as well, right? We need to find a balance that we also need to rely in our human interconnections and also rely a lot on the planet, right? Like sometimes we put too much effort into technology to solve like climate change, whereas sometimes we could just go more with nature-based solutions that are just there and they are probably more effective. So I think finding a balance between technology and non-technology is also quite important.
Fantastic. I totally agree, Carlos. And when you were talking, this morning when you open, and every morning when you open the newspaper, you see a world that is more and more polarized. People that they are entrenched in their position without even talking to each other. I want to ask, you are somebody who's building bridges and trying to create community. How do you see the power of community in retransforming our debate and such entrenched and polarized debates?
That's a very good question. And I totally agree. I think we see more and more polarization, unfortunately. And I think communities are powerful because they really help bringing people together and finding the similarities between them, right? Because when you're part of a community, you suddenly see, well, I've got something in common with this other person, so we can do something together. So you stop focusing too much on the little things that actually are different, that separate us, and we start focusing more on what brings us together as human beings. And I think there's a magic power in there, whether it's an online community like Good Ripple or an in-person one. I think also we've kind of lost, especially in the global north, the local communities, the physical communities. Like everyone is a little bit too individualistic, and most of us don't even know our neighbors, right? I think there's a huge power in starting to recover those communities, because suddenly you feel more interconnected with the world, you feel more interconnected with people around you. And when you start sharing things, trusting people, developing these relationships, you start realizing that, again, there's a lot more we have in common than what separates us, right? Whether we like something different, whether we follow different religions, different political parties, who cares? Like the bottom line is that we're all human beings sharing this planet and we have a lot in common. And we can use that to learn from each other. I think also one tip that I would share is that in general, when we come to a conversation, you can learn a lot more if you assume that you are wrong. And this is something we all struggle with, because we all go into conversations assuming we are right and you're wrong, and I want to make my point across so I can convince you. But if you come into conversations with more of an open mind and saying, okay, I've got this opinion, I've got this perspective, but maybe it's wrong. Let me hear with care what the other person has to say. Because most of the cases, you can improve your perspectives. Even if it's something that you're really clear about, you can change your mind. Sometimes it happens, that somebody can open your eyes in different ways. So I think having that open mind when we engage in conversations and going in with that assumption that I'm wrong or I may be wrong, let me hear what this other person has to say. There's a lot more value exchange in that conversation, and you can actually grow a lot more as a person. So I would totally recommend people, and I know this is hard, but try to go into conversations with that open mind and assuming that you may be wrong, and really, actively listen to the other person's opinions. It's super powerful. And I think it's something that can bring us together a lot more as human beings.
Fantastic piece of advice. I mean, this is a lesson that more and more we need to learn, because everybody is going to, in a conversation, try to convince, not even listening. And when they listen, they're thinking and focusing on the answer rather than what is being said. And I want to ask now, since you have 1 year of your community and work, and I'm sure you are some even exciting development are coming this year and next year. So I want to ask, which are your aspiration for Good Ripple? Which are the next milestone? And but even before that, within this year, can you share one or two moments that really have touched you and really made you think, wow, I am on the right path. I am doing something good?
Great. So I think the two of them are linked, actually. What we're super excited about this year is that we're going to be testing monetization for the community. So we spent the first year growing the community, talking to lots of change makers, understand who they are, understand their pains. Now we want to test how can we provide more value to our community members, so much that some of them may be even happy to pay a subscription for the community. So what we want to do is have like a freemium model. So we want to just keep everything as it is right now. So we're not going to change anything. Like, we really want to connect every change maker. So our community is going to remain free. Everything that we have at the moment is going to remain free for people. We don't want to change that because we want everyone to come in and enjoy. But then we want to create that extra value for people. So we are going to create the pro version of Good Ripple where we will deliver extra value. And the way we want to do that is not me saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. What we're going to do is we're going to co-create that pro version of Good Ripple with community members. So a couple of weeks ago, so I sent an email to the community saying, hey, we want to co-create Good Ripple Pro with you. We want you to tell us how we do this, and we want you to be part of this journey and help us build Good Ripple Pro. So I was really blown away by the response, and we have already 39 Good Ripple Pro pioneers who want to be part of that process. And that to me was like, wow, like really blown away. And we actually had a meeting, a first co-creation meeting, and it was 13 of us in there. From all of those 39, 13 could make it to the meeting. And, there was an amazing brainstorming session with community members sharing their ideas of how can we build Good Ripple Pro. And that, to me, has been so far the highlight of the year, because seeing the members themselves coming together, sharing ideas and sharing how we can actually deliver a lot more value for all community members was just super inspiring to me, to be honest. And now we're going to take steps from there and put all those ideas together and share them with the rest of the community to see what they think, see which ideas they value the most. And then we will prioritize those ideas and start implementing them and testing whether we could actually become more financially sustainable.
And fantastic. And this is also an episode that is also a one-on-one on startups and work and really how to co-create and collaborate and work with your customer in this way on how to deliver your product and getting the feedback and working with them. It's really amazing, and it's really mind-blowing, as you say, that in less than 1 year, the ripple effect have already started to gather pace so much. And my last question for you, because it's really an interesting, that's why I really liked the idea of having you, because you are touching the chord of people and people of the bottom line. So people like us, and even with the podcast and others that are trying to gather effort for a more sustainable world. So which advice you want to give to our listeners that are really wanted to make impact, maybe through social entrepreneurship, or other areas, but they don't know where to start. I mean, the first thing is maybe you join Good Ripples.
Yeah, I mean, obviously joining Good Ripple can be a good first step. But what I would say to people is we've got this sort of notion that we have to make a huge change in the world. And, all of these big issues like climate change, social injustice, etc., they're really hard to tackle on our own. It's literally impossible that one individual can do this, right? So what I see a lot of change makers struggling with is that they feel too little to tackle these big things. And there's a lot of people underestimating the power of mindset. And I say that because when you start doing a tiny small change, whether it's something super simple in your own life or even helping a neighbor, whatever it is, it's not just about that little action. That little action may not change the world, but it's about the mindset that is helping you develop, which eventually can lead to a lot more impact. So my recommendation is start very little and work on that mindset that will help you build up to higher impact actions. Again, like, we're not going to change the world on ourselves. So try to find people around you. Try to surround yourself with other people who also want to create a better world. Whether it's in the same space or a different space, it doesn't matter. If people want to create a better world, there's always synergies and collaborations that can happen. So I would totally recommend those two things, like work on your mindset, start small, and connect with other change makers. Whether, they're super advanced in the journey or they're just like you getting started, it doesn't matter. It's about coming together and creating those ripple effects of positivity.
Fantastic, Carlos. And you can check the description of the podcast and you will put all the links and the word. So power of community is strong and it will make life different for you and you will not feel isolated. So I need to thank you so much for this lesson and insights on your work and your community. And I'm sure maybe we'll see you in 1 year or two on your journey towards a very big impact with Good Ripple. Thank you so much, Carlos. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Samuel, for having me here. It's been great. Thank you so much.
Are you satisfied after this wonderful episode? Let's continue together our sustainability journey.